Hear from her today. You're going to hear from another one of their top tier doctors. But in the meantime, as you hear Dr. Harris speak, please look up Jizen, JYZEN, check them out, and just tour their facilities. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Harris Masket.
Oh, perfect. Hey, thank you so much. Can you hear me? Is it working? Can you hear me now? Okay, great. I tend to be loud, so we should be all right. Thank you for being here, everybody. So the talk that we're going to have today is about mitochondrial health and metabolism. And just want to let you know that's a slight change from what you saw in your in the prospectus, but this is what we're going to be talking about. And what I'm going to argue and explain to you is I'm an internal medicine and sports medicine doctor at Jizen. And what I have been excited about my whole life is metabolism. And what we've learned, and many of us in this room have learned and understood, is that the mitochondria is the key piece of that. And the mitochondria are basically our batteries. If you look at the top of your phone, you see your battery's health. You know how quickly it drains and how quickly it recharges. That is the key to our health. That's the key to fighting off disease. That's the key to quality years of life. So what I'm going to explain to you is that, well, then what we need to do is understand, how do I know how my mitochondria are doing? How do I query that? How do I not only query that, but figure out, well, how do I make my mitochondria better? How do I address that? There are a lot of tests out there, but the number one best test, and you don't know what I'm going to tell you, but I'll tell you, it's exciting because it's exercise testing. Now, exercise testing, you might be thinking, is that VO2 max? Yes, VO2 max testing. Before I jump, I got to answer what a lot of you are thinking is, so isn't my watch, my ring, my phone, my device telling me my VO2 max? Yes. Is that the answer? No. Sorry. So now you have to keep listening. It's not the answer because we're not just trying to get a number. We're not just trying to get what is your VO2 max. Those devices are interesting. They do sometimes get your accurate VO2 max, but it's based on your sex at birth, your age, a little bit about your height sometimes, what your heart rate happens to be when you're drinking coffee, when you're sitting in a talk, when you walk down the street. That's not a really accurate way to say, how are your mitochondria working? Okay, so a little explanation. Your mitochondria are using fuel all day long. They're using these fuels. They're using these plus probably some caffeine. They're using this in an aerobic or anaerobic environment. And despite what we all learned way back in high school and college, they're actually doing this all the time. You're burning fat right now. You're using ketones right now. You're doing an anaerobic and aerobic work right now. You're doing all of it, but a little bit more in the areas we think. Okay, so what we created a long time ago were these exercise zones, thinking we could partition these so we could understand metabolism. But what is the one thing that humans do better than anybody, any animal? It's endurance. Our endurance is what sets us apart. Our endurance is basically what we're doing almost all the time. And our endurance is basically your mitochondrial function. And if your mitochondrial function is up here, you're going to rest well, you're going to think well, you're going to be nicer to the people in your life, you're going to fight off disease well, and when you have disease, you're going to fight that better. So basically, how's that battery doing? All right, so let's dive into this a little bit more. When you do a VO2 max test, we get you all hooked up. We have a mask that tells how much oxygen and carbon dioxide is going in and out of you. We're basically querying in every way what's going on inside your metabolism so that we can know how is that battery working. So if you just look at the end, you get this number, your VO2 max. That's great. It's nice. It's good for comparing you to others. But what we need to know is what's happening all the way along that test. Now, you've probably heard of these zones, exercise zones. I'm not a big fan, but we all understand them to some degree, and zone 2 is really popular these days. I'll explain that what I like to do when I do this test with you is look at all of the data and say, where were we at when we were in zone 2? And I'll explain why. But these zones, actually, in some places we use 3 zones. In some countries, we use 8 zones. Some sports use 7 zones. So the zones are really just an attempt to try to understand what's happening and partition these things. Actually, metabolism is a little more like this. It's all over the place. But in general, a little more fat at the beginning, in general, a little more carbs, but there's lactate throughout the whole process. So it's a lot messier than that. But when you really query somebody's body during an exercise test, you find out specifically how those mitochondria are working. And actually, this came from 40 years ago, this slide. It showed how we're using all of our fuels all the time, but different ratios as we move up. Now, I have a great case example of these two people who I just did this exercise testing with. And they're very similar. They're females. They have very similar VO2 maxes. In fact, I think you could probably say the VO2 max is probably about the same or within the accuracy of what a watch or a ring or something could tell you. Okay, so what I try to do is say, in what we call zone 2, and in zone 2, for those who aren't, haven't read all of Peter Attia's books and things, it's basically where you're pushing yourself at a level where you could stay there for a long, long, long time. That's endurance. You could stay there a little bit uncomfortably, but basically there for a long, long, long time. That's what humans have evolved to do really well. So if we compare woman A and woman B, this woman was in zone 2, and she was able to, if you look at speed, she was able to create that much energy, 5.5 miles per hour. That's how much force this battery of hers could generate. Here's the cost of it: a heart rate of 150, a respiratory rate of 30. Here's how much fuel it needed: 5 or 6 calories per minute of carbohydrate. Okay, so that's her battery. There's some specs. The person over here, they were able to be in that same sort of zone and learn about their battery where their heart rate was at 170. Their respiratory rate's actually lower. They were able to create this much energy, 4.9 miles per hour. So that's how much power they have. And only 3.5 calories per minute of carbs. Those are just two different batteries. Now, if you just look at what their watch said, their VO2 max is fairly similar. This is why I like this test. This is why I like doing this with people, because you get to know everything about their battery, everything about the fueling they need, how quickly they will recover, how much energy we need to put into them, into their body for them to do this. And then you can create a really personalized way of training that person so we can make their battery a little stronger. But now I know what she needs. Now I know what this person needs. So what we're doing at Jizen, I'll explain. Jizen is a biooptimization medical clinic. I think it's the clinic of the future, and that's what I'm excited about in working there. I'm a sports medicine, internal medicine physician. Dr. Beth McDougall is our medical director and one of our founders. She is a functional medicine physician and also internist. And what we're doing there is we've just created a 90-day metabolic reset program. Among the other things we do, what we're trying to do is take a very personalized look at people's metabolism, kind of like I was describing. Figure out what your battery is like. Now, there's more to that battery, right? Like our gut can have dysfunction. We can not deal with toxins very well. We cannot recover very well. We can be dealing with stress. We can have more toxins that affect our mitochondria. We might not be absorbing all the food we need to give us the substrate, the energy that we need so that all these things can work really well. So what we need to do is take a deep, deep, deep dive to understand everything we can so we can give you a blueprint. Why? Because more than just longevity, more than just living X number of months longer, there's quality of life years. And in the last 7 years, I think a number of really big studies have come out saying exercise testing, the results we get from exercise testing, directly correlate with not just how long a person lives, but how well they live, how much disease-free years, how much enjoyable years, how much basically you can enjoy your life. So this testing informs that, and all of these different ways it impacts our life. So what we do is we gather a whole lot of data, your wearable data, your CGM, deep set of labs to look at absorption, inflammation, insulin studies. We get a microbiome test, a deep test there. And then we do a whole bunch of tests to basically figure out, like I was talking about, your VO2 max, your resting metabolic, a whole host of metabolic tests. And then we check you at the beginning. We give you a series of things that we do at Jizen over the course of those 3 months, including therapies that help you get stronger, therapies that help you recover, peptide therapies, if that's what's appropriate for your situation. And then we reassess at the end. And basically, the point of this is we're your partner. We're all super fascinated by this stuff. We all, learn about the latest supplement and then we take it. But so many people come to me and say, listen, I need a partner. I need somebody who reads this too and can just be a guide along with me, a medical team that can help me guide this on my own, because we're all fascinated and we're all learning as we go. So I think it's a really exciting program. If you're interested in it, there is a January cohort that will be starting, and if you want more information or join our wait list, obviously there's a QR code up there. And if you just want to come up and do some VO2 max testing at Jizen, we do it, and then I go over the test with you and tell you everything I can about your battery. Thank you so much for your paying attention and for your very present eyes. I appreciate you.